Welcome to Heian Haven. I'm Dawn. Today we're discussing Chapter 21 of the Tale of Genji, Otome. We'll start with our usual summary for shared context. The new year came and went. In the third month, the first anniversary of Fujitsubo's death passed, and the court came out of mourning, returning to brightly colored clothes. At the beginning of the fourth month was the switch to summer wardrobes. In the fifth month, the Kamo festival was held, and Genji sent a note to Asagao. A while later, he sent a large amount of gifts as she came out of mourning. Genji's son comes of age, and the ceremony is held at Sanjo so the boy's grandmother, Princess Omiya, can witness it. The boy, Yugiri, is only raised to the 6th rank, which Omiya and everyone else is surprised by. She asks, and Genji explains his reasoning. He wants his son to have a firm grasp on the classics, so he will be a better public servant. Yugiri is given his two-character Chinese sobriquet with quite the spectacle of a formal ceremony. There was a poetry after-party of sorts, where all wrote one of two styles of Chinese poem. Genji's son is then formally sent to the academy, presenting gifts to his teachers. His father arranges quarters for him in the East Pavilion of Nijo, and limits him to 3 visits per month to Sanjo where his grandmother lives, and he had also up to this point. Angry at being locked away, he decided to finish his studies as quickly as possible and then make his way at court. A few months later, he had progressed so quickly and well that his father arranged a trial test of the academy examination. Yugiri passes it easily with 0 corrections, and his tutor's future is now quite bright. He passes the real examination with much fanfare, and Nijo becomes a gathering place for composing poetry in Chinese. Emperor Reize must choose an empress, and the former Ise priestess, now the Umetsubo consort, wins out with Genji's support as palace minister. Genji is then promoted to chancellor, and Tono Chujo is elevated to palace minister. Genji cedes all administrative duties to his old friend. Yugiri was raised at Sanjo with his cousin, Tono Chujo's second daughter, Kumoi no Kari, and their gentlewomen know that the two have developed a very close relationship. Tono Chujo visits Sanjo and plays music together with his mother and daughter. Once Genji's son arrives, Tono Chujo encourages him to play flute and step away from his studies from time to time. After the entertainment, Tono Chujo happens across gentlewomen gossiping about him and learns that his daughter has an intimate relationship with Genji's son. He leaves quickly, mulling over what he has heard, and becomes angry that he cannot now send his daughter to the heir apparent. 2 days later, Tono Chujo returns to Sanjo to confront his mother, objecting to her allowing a marriage between cousins. His mother had no idea. Tono Chujo visits his daughter and commands her nurses to keep the matter quiet. Princess Omiya confronts her grandson, and that evening, Yugiri finds the door between his room and Kumoi no Kari's locked. He returns to Nijo, defeated and heartbroken. Kumoi no Kari's women no longer allow even letters to pass between them. Tono Chujo concocts a plan. He has his daughter, the Kokiden consort, return home for a while, and then told her to have her younger sister come to keep her company. Princess Omiya is hurt by his decision to take the girl away. He explains that he will come for her after returning from the palace. Omiya sends for Kumoi no Kari and explains the situation to her, while Genji's son secretly watches from behind a screen. In the chaos created by the preparations to move Kumoi no Kari, Omiya allows the two children to see each other. Tono Chujo returns and almost catches them together as they exchange poems one last time. Genji is to present a young woman to be a maiden of the dance, a gosechi dancer. He chooses the daughter of Koremitsu, now a governor. Preparations are made, and the girl is brought to Nijo. Though not allowed near Murasaki's quarters in the west wing of Nijo, Yugiri manages to slip in unnoticed and sees the maiden, but her gentlewomen intervene. Of the maidens presented, Koremitsu's daughter is thought to be the best. Genji's son sends the maiden a letter via her brother, which Koremitsu takes from them. He is amused, but continues to prepare his daughter to be sent to the court as a dame of staff. The new year comes and goes, and Emperor Reize decides to visit his brother, the retired Emperor Suzaku. Yugiri writes a masterful poem and advances at the academy. During the autumn appointments, he is promoted to lower 5th rank. Genji plans and has a new residence in Rokujo, made of 4 separate parcels of land to keep all his ladies. He speeds up work on it so he can hold a celebration for Murasaki's father's 50th year. Once the residence is finished, Genji, Murasaki, and Hanichiro Sato move during the 8th month at the autumn equinox. The Umetsubo Empress follows a few days later, and the lady from Akashi moves in the 10th month. The translations continue to be very close to each other. That's a good thing. I'm still mostly unimpressed with Waley, and Seidensticker remains just fine. This chapter somehow brought into sharp contrast what is included in the text between Tyler and Washburn. Time after time, Washburn inserts the same information Tyler puts in a footnote into the text itself. For example, when Reise visits Suzaku, Tyler says that the orchestra barges come out. In a footnote, he includes the information Washburn inserts, that the barges each had highly decorated prows. The Heian courtier would have instantly been able to see in their mind what these barges look like, so the description wasn't needed. Most modern people have no clue about that, so Washburn includes the description. I completely understand that Washburn is going for an accessible version of Genji, but I think you lose a little of the nuance of the original by flatly stating things. One of the fathers, who put forth a daughter for the Gosechi festival, petitions the court to have his daughter formally admitted into service. Washburn adds, presumably as a consort. Once again, this was a footnote in Tyler. I want to try to hear Murasaki Shikibu in this reading, and Washburn's additions garble that a bit. Leaving things a little ambiguous was part of the point. Tyler's translation, and even Seidensticker's translation, allow for some of the cadence of the original work to shine through. And we have another instance of Waley using, let's call it, loaded language. When Tono Chujo confronts his mother after he hears about the children's relationship, she blanches. Most of her translators say under her makeup or despite her powder, but Waley uses the phrase powder and paint. I object to his calling makeup paint. You can decide for yourself how you feel about it. We move through 2 years in this chapter, so there are a number of seasonal references, especially the festivals and the fall equinox. In addition, the 4th month is described as having warm, soft skies by Seidensticker. The 8th month has cold rain, mournful winds, and we're reminded that hagi, or bush clover, blooms in the fall. Our most impressive seasonal information comes from the descriptions of the gardens of each of Genji's ladies. Murasaki's spring garden contains 5-needle pine, red plum, cherry trees, wisteria, carrier rose, and rock azaleas. The Umetsubo Empress's fall garden has rich autumn colors. Hanichiro Sato's summer garden was planted with Chinese bamboo and tall groves of trees, deutzia, orange trees, pinks, roses, sweet flag or iris, and peonies. Winter is the Akashi lady's domain, with plantings of pine to contrast with the snow, and chrysanthemums to gather the early frosts. The Kamo festival plays a small role in this chapter. We've discussed this festival before, in Chapter 9, Aoi. There is not a priestess being chosen this year, but it would still have the procession between the lower and upper Kamo shrines, and include a display of mountain archery. The Gosechi festival plays an even larger role than the Kamo in this chapter. Washburn has a gloriously detailed footnote to describe the festival as a series of feast days held in the middle of the 11th month to celebrate the harvest. These festivals were capped with great banquets, at which the Gosechi dancers performed the dance of the heavenly maidens. 2 maidens came from high noble houses, and 2 or 3 would come from the houses of officials, particularly provincial governors. When Genji is telling Princess Omiya why he is sending his son to the academy, he says that he will be able to serve in a court full of the Japanese spirit, wit, or wisdom, depending on the translation. The word in Japanese is Yamato Damashi. This is the only occurrence in the book, and the first surviving occurrence in written literature or history. I just thought that was really neat. Thank you, footnotes. We learn a bit about how one progresses at the academy in the Ministry of Ceremonials. Yugiri is first given a 2-character sobriquet, what Waley calls a school name, in a fancy ceremony. After that, he presents gifts to his teachers. After much studying, he then passes a series of exams, each with their own ceremony and usually with a crowd. Once he is finished with the academy, he is promoted, as being in the academy removed him from the roles of promotions, putting his court career on hold. During the ceremony to give Genji's son his school name, the professors were all dressed in borrowed, ill-fitting robes. This comical appearance, contrasted with their stern and gaunt faces, and combined with their slightly odd speech, made for an amusing ceremony. Waley says that the professors were speaking antiquated Japanese combined with classical Chinese. When Genji and Tonochujo are promoted, there are grand banquets held. From a footnote in Tyler, we learn that there were lots of feasts and banquets, especially during the first month when the emperor feasted his courtiers on the 1st, 7th, 14th, and 16th. There are a number of instances of gifts in this chapter. Genji provides gifts to Asagao and the 5th princess when their mourning period ends. Yugiri gives gifts to his teachers. Gifts are given to the students who are moved to the fishing pavilion when there wasn't enough room. And toward the end of the chapter, in Tyler, we have a footnote that defines roku as the gifts to compensate the priests for their efforts. They're calling them gifts and making a show of it, when really, this is just one of the ways someone gets paid. At the beginning of the chapter, we're told that the court comes out of mourning and into colorful clothing. This is during the 3rd month. Then there is a change of wardrobe at the beginning of the 4th month. I'm sure the 1st makes sense to you. It's been a year since Fujitsuko died, and the court, once thrust into somber tones of mourning, can wear regular colors again. But what's this change of wardrobe? Well, there are several times per year when the wardrobe shifts. The summer shift was to thin robes. The silk used for garments was a gauzy fabric, light and airy, but with the stiffness of a freshly woven silk intact, so it stands away from the body. At other times of year, the weight of silk changes, linings come and go, and the colors change for women. Each season has a certain kasane, color combinations, and you don't want to get caught wearing something from last season. Do you remember that I keep coming back to the theory that mourning robes were made of wisteria bark fabric? Well, Tyler surmises the same thing, that once upon a time, Fujigoromo, or wisteria clothing, referred to mourning dress made of wisteria bark fabric. So the robes are still called that, even if they no longer are made of wisteria. Waley says Asagao's mourning color was of dark blue wisteria color. Wisteria, or Fuji, is purple, so this would be a deep bluish purple. When she comes out of mourning for her father, Genji sends an alarming number of gifts truly fit for an aristocratic woman. This would likely be a number of gowns and robes, or the fabric to make them. Yugiri, Genji's son, wears a particular colored formal robe to indicate his rank. Waley and Tyler call it light blue, Seidensticker just says blue, and Washburn says light blue-green. From my understanding of the cap color system, in China, caps of different colors were worn by different ranks. In Japan, it's a formal court robe. The color should be of true light blue. Tyler calls it asagi. There's a link to a chart of cap colors in the description down below. You'll notice in the chart that the light blue is designated for the 9th court rank, and koki midori, a deep green, for the 6th. Fascinating. Yugiri is so ashamed of his light blue sleeves that he doesn't go to court often, but for the Gosechi festival, courtiers could wear any color they wished, so he went. When Emperor Reize visits retired Emperor Suzaku, all the courtiers wear the same colors. Waley, of course, gets it wrong, saying they wore dove gray lined in pale green. Seidensticker says green over white lined in red. This is closer, but still not right. Tyler's translation gets us to the right thing, leaf green over a cherry blossom layering. Remember that a cherry layering is white over red. Washburn essentially agrees, putting the men in mossy green over white robes lined in reddish purple. When the Ometsubo Empress sends Murasaki a present, leaves and flowers arranged in a box lid, it is carried by a lovely page girl, even though the gift really demanded a more mature woman to deliver it. This page girl was wearing yellow lined with green with a brown gauze outer layer, according to Waley. Seidensticker describes her as wearing deep purple, a robe of lilac lined in blue, and a gossamer cloak of saffron. Tyler says that she wears deep purple under a patterned aster layering with a light russet dress gown. According to his glossary, the aster layering is pale gray-violet over blue-green. Washburn does a fair job, saying she wore a woven patterned robe of pale violet lined with blue over a short dark purple singlet and a diaphanous outer robe of pale russet. You've heard me rant about blue as part of women's clothes, so I'll leave that alone this time. There is so much more that I wish I could share with you, but this video is already quite long. What stood out for you in this chapter? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Join me next time for Chapter 22, Tamakazura. Subscribe if you'd like to explore the Heian period of Japan with me through the Tale of Genji.